Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay in the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. My name is Jeff Sharon, along with Eric Lopez. We are continuing our trifecta of fall previews here, and we are continuing with UCF Volleyball heading into the fall of 2017. Eric Lopez, and just like so, everyone around here who listens to us knows that softball is your sport, right? I think that's safe to say.
That's an understatement, right?
Volleyball.
I've been doing it for broadcasting since like 2007, sure.
Now, volleyball is my sport. I love UCF volleyball. It was the first sport that I covered when I was a freshman in the fall of 2001. It was the first UCF sporting event I ever went to. And, I was spoiled as a student at UCF because we had some amazing teams that won 3 consecutive conference titles. And Todd Dagenais, the head coach at UCF Volleyball now, is looking to reestablish that tradition, and we've got a preview of his 2017 team coming at you right here. So, a couple of quick reminders. Make sure you follow us at blackandgoldbanneret.com. We've got all of our fall sports previews coming up there underneath the series we like to call Everything You Need to Know about whichever sport heading into their 2017 season. Follow us on Facebook as well. Give us a like. Send us a holler. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at UCF_Banneret. Follow me at Jeff_Sharon. Follow Eric at Eric Lopez Elo. You can also subscribe to our podcast if you don't already on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio. And don't forget to leave us a like, leave us a rating on iTunes as well. That helps us out. Tell all your friends over at UCF who are UCF friends and any UCF friends and family. Tell them about us and make sure they subscribe. All right, so let's talk about UCF volleyball. So Todd Dagenais is heading into his 10th season at UCF, which is really something when you think about it. He's actually now the longest tenured UCF volleyball head coach. Because Meg Collada was at UCF for 9 years. So Todd actually eclipses Meg in that department. And he comes in 23 wins shy of becoming UCF's all-time leader in wins as a head coach. Laura Smith stands at 188 career wins at UCF. For, of course, Laura Smith, who played for Lucy McDaniel back in the 1978 National Championship team. Lucy McDaniel has 182 career wins. And Todd is nipping on their heels at 165. So this should be so if UCF has a big year, that would he has a chance to actually become the winningest head coach in school history by the end of the season. So a couple things to note. Looking back at UCF from last year. Great season. I think UCF actually outkicked their coverage last year because they went 23-10, 13-7 in the league. And this was coming off a year where they were actually below 500 due to a number of injuries, particularly to Kia Bright, which they lost her for the entire season back in 2015. She came back. She was very good, not quite the same coming back in 2016, Eric, but she should be back at full force this year. A bunch of interesting newcomers, and for UCF, they want to get back to the kind of team that they had back in 2014. Remember when they won the American? Remember they don't have a postseason volleyball tournament in the American, so It's going to be it's all done in the regular season. And this year, there's a new addition to the conference in Wichita State. Wichita State's pretty good. They were a perennial power in the Missouri Valley Conference. So, looking back at this, I know that with you basically have two seniors this year, Kia Bright and Taylor Rickey, who were on that 2014 team, that are going to be key. But before we go over to head coach Todd Dagenais here in a second for an interview I conducted with him after the Black and Gold scrimmage this past weekend, Eric, what have you been actually seeing about UCF volleyball so far that you actually really liked about this team coming into this season? Because you're going to hear from me in a little bit, but I wanted to get your take on this.
Well, I think there's a sense of, I know in talking to Coach Dagenais, even during the spring, and a little bit during the off season, as well as associate coach Coach Maurer, Jenny there. I think they feel good about the depth, right? Like, I mean, the big question is going to be, well, who replaces Jayla Harvey? But yet I feel like they feel confident that they have more depth, more options this year than maybe last year. And obviously Kia Bright being a year more removed from the injuries, you might even see her best year yet. So that's the sense that I've gotten. I'm sure you got a better perspective having been at the scrimmage and talking to Coach, as we'll hear shortly. And I it's interesting. I mean, the league, as we'll get into later, is I think as tough as it's ever been. It was a banner year for the league last year, a multiple bid league for the first time since the American Conference was created, with obviously SMU and Cincinnati getting in. Some believe that Temple should have been in. Some thought UCF should have been in. And so I think that's going to be the interesting thing is, and you think back, Jeff, how many tight matches they could have gone the other way last season. I think back to the Temple match in Orlando, which I got to call for the American Digital Network. I know you were there calling it on the PA. That could have gone either way. Who knows? Maybe if UCF wins that match and maybe one other match, that gets them into the tournament. That's how tight it was. And that's going to be the key to me. And then the thing I'm looking forward to hearing is kind of what's the difference there that can make the difference in a point or two. Maybe it's going through that success, maybe ahead of schedule, as you've alluded to. That's what I'm kind of looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, they lost of their 10 losses last year. Mind you, they were 23 wins. 4 losses came in 5 sets. So flip that around, 27-6. I mean, you're going to the tournament definitely if you get to that point. So, so nonetheless, coming off that 20-win season, I think that they're not satisfied as they head into this season. All right. So without further ado, let's hear from the man himself. Here is my interview after the Black and Gold scrimmage with UCF head volleyball coach Todd Dagenais. Todd Dagenais joining us for our season preview interview here in year number 10. Time flies, doesn't it?
It's, I'm speechless when somebody says it's the 10 years. We look back 10 years of this. In our world, 10 years is an eternity. And if somebody would have said I would have made it 10 years or I would be here for 10 years, I would have said that's probably not likely because the average 10 years probably 4 years if you're lucky. So I feel very fortunate. And for Katie and I to be able to be here and be welcomed at this school for 10 years. And, there's been the transition, but the philosophy has never changed. It's always been about excellence. It's always been about winning championships. It's been about excellence in the classroom, student-athlete experience, and that vision has never changed. And I really love now how we see a lot of that come to fruition to the point where it's getting jump-started on, by Danny White and the group around him. We're becoming a big-time athletic school.
It's been, we're sitting here after the Black and Gold scrimmage. The excitement now that starts with here. I want to talk about the schedule basically kind of starting out because this is a tough schedule that you guys have set up. We're not going to see a home match until September the 15th, but you set it up that way so that you're going to get some experience on the road against some pretty tough teams. Tell me about the schedule starting off and how that all worked out.
Well, the first thing I want to do is take our scheduler, hold them to the ground, and just pummel the crap out of them. No, we had we're in a situation where we had to return a bunch of trips. We had several home tournaments, and we had to start returning those trips. And I just figured we're going to do it all at once and knock off Northern Colorado, knock off Central Arkansas. And then we started this Sunshine Challenge with Miami, Florida Gulf Coast, and Florida Atlantic to try to have 1 year where we know we're not going to travel very far. So just turns out that the first 3 weeks are on the road. That's an awful lot of travel.
Then you come home and you got Virginia and Ole Miss.
And then we come home and we have to play a ACC and an SEC team. But even when we go on the road, we're going to play Northern Colorado, who has first place votes in their poll for their conference. We're going to play Duke, a perennial top 25 team. We're going to play Colorado State, a perennial top 10, top 15 team. Then we get the Sunshine Challenge. Gulf Coast is picked to finish their conference first. FAU is going to be very competitive again. I think they finished top 5 last year in their conference. Miami, NCAA tournament team. The last time we saw them, we lost a 5-game heartbreaker in an NCAA tournament. And so that doesn't get any easier. Then you go to Central Arkansas. They're getting first place votes to win their league. Arkansas State is a perennial NCAA tournament team. Then we play Southern, and Southern, you can't overlook anybody. And that's our preseason. Then we come home to play Virginia and Ole Miss. So, I probably overscheduled, but I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid to go out there and lay it out there. And whatever happens, happens. Either way, we're going to be ready for a conference that last year was ranked 6 out of 31. And this year is going to be ranked higher because we just added a top 30 team.
Right, with Wichita, yeah.
Right. So, you look at it, you look at Wichita, you look at Cincinnati, who's going to be top 25 as well. SMU's always good. Temple brings back a lethal offense. They were top 50 last year. There's 4 teams right there. And so the coaches picked us 5th behind them, but I also feel like we can compete with and beat any one of those teams on any given night. So the conference is going to be a bloodbath. USF is better. ECU is better. South Florida, like I said, they've had a big influx of talent. Houston's going to be better. They're not going to be the 0-20 team that kept missing 6 or 7 points here and there that cost the matches. Tulsa's going to be good again. It's going to really be a lot of fun to be back in a multi-bid league again. It's been 10 years since I've been in a league that had a chance of getting 3, 4, maybe 5 conference bids. And it's going to be a lot of fun to be part of that again.
Well, you got some really good returners that are going to bring you back. And I want to talk specifically about Kia Bright, preseason pick for all conference. How is she feeling now? After the injury that she had, it always takes about another year before you're really back 100%. How's she looking right now?
Yeah, I don't think anybody knows how rough that injury was. There was more than just the ACL. There's a little bit more there. And, we got her back. We didn't rush her. She played last year, but even last year she played. We didn't let her play at any more than 75%. And so we're really monitoring her jumps, really monitoring her workload. And she just didn't get to have the year. She got cheated out of a year because we held her back. If it was up to her, she would have went. She'd have been like, she's a racehorse. She hears the bell, she wants to go. And this year we're going to crank her loose. We're going to let her go. And she has been doing nothing but passing, playing defense, crushing the ball, blocking, being a great leader, voted team captain, and has been just an absolute pleasure for us to have her on the team this year. So there's nothing more you could ask out of somebody, who's now been with us for 4 years.
She's going to have to step up her offensive game, and a bunch of other people are going to, because when you lose Jayla Hervey from last year, that's a lot of offensive production that goes by the wayside. So who are in addition to Kia, who are the other players who you're looking to pick up that hole?
Well, I think we've got a few different options. The first of all, we have our transfer, Stacey Zhang, who came in from LIU Brooklyn. She's done some really nice things in preseason camp that makes us believe she's got an opportunity to go out there and help us, and it doesn't hurt that she's 6'6", and blocking and attacking are things that she can do very well. Comes from a great pedigree. Her mom was a very famous player for the Chinese national team as a national celebrity. Her dad played in the Chinese version of the NBA. So she's got great lineage as well. She knows what it's like to pursue excellence. That's one option. Option number 2 is Christina Fisher, who was all-tournament at the USA Junior Olympics this year in her age bracket. She is a ready-made Terminator. She already knows how to play the position. She's done it for a long time. She can play the entire game all the way around. And there's been days where she's really impressed us. And then there's days where she has to work on some things. And so she could be filling in that other role. And then the other one that we're really excited about, of course, is Lachey Harper comes off of her redshirt year now with a year behind her. She played all spring for us. She got the chance to play against Florida and Florida State and a lot of other teams and did very well with it. So I think we've got 3 great options in that other left side spot. Plus, we have the depth. We can withstand injuries. We can withstand illness. We can withstand the things that you can never prepare for, because you just can't prepare for all the things that can happen. So just in the left side hitting group, the depth there is incredible.
Up front, in addition to, Stacey Zhang and some of the other players you mentioned, Jeannie Westney's back, Alex Sable's back after a full year as a freshman where you couldn't keep her out of the lineup. She was so impressive last year. Obviously, Taylor Wicke, who looks as good as ever right now. How much more do you expect from those players on your front line coming into this year?
I think Wicky's going to have an All-American type year. I think she's going to have a Delana Sardin type year.
Wow.
That's bold to make that kind of prediction, but that's what she's poised to do, is put that kind of a year together. Jeannie Westney now has a year under her belt, and there's nothing worse than playing middle in college as a freshman. It is such a hard position to play, and she's improving by leaps and bounds every day. And the one that's really impressed us in practice has been Narissa Mrovic. I mean, she's picked up the offense. She's coming in faster. She's actually the fastest of the 3 middles. And her attacking is coming along. Her blocking is coming along. And again, you talk about depth. You have to have depth to win. And the middle is the position that most often gets injured, gets tired, gets overused. And to have the 3 of them that we can cycle through is going to be priceless as the year goes on. You talk about Allie Sable, somebody that we had to, we decided to pull off a red shirt last year because she was doing so well. And Stacy can also play the right side. Christina Fisher can also play the right side. But the one that's really the breakout for us this year has been Anne-Marie Watson, local player right out of Hagerty High School. We thought we'd bring her in, redshirt her, and just kind of bring her along. And she's impressed us every single day in practice. Every scrimmage, every opportunity she gets to go out there and perform, she's doing it. And she does it in such a humble, respectful way. She expects nothing. She just wants to go out there and help the team. And, we may be dealing with another Allie situation where you go in with a plan. We're going to redshirt a kid, and then all of a sudden she finds a way on the floor. Who knows? But, yeah, I really like where we are in the front line. I think we can block. I think we can attack. I think our big players can handle the ball, and that gives us a chance to win.
Nice problem to have.
It definitely is.
Erin Olsen was another player who looked really impressive today, I thought, in the black and gold scrimmage. She transfers over from Bradley, and having her in the setter position also, in addition to what Miranda Watkins brings to the table, is a really nice setup for you to have with those 2 players setting everything up.
Sure. Miranda's got 2 years under her belt now, and she just gets smarter and smarter on how to run the offense. She's a technician out there. She really understands how do you isolate people, how do you overload people, and she's really done a nice job. Alex Fisher coming in from Phoenix, I've been very impressed with her. She's I keep calling her Brett Favre. She's a gunslinger, and she goes out there and she will do things that setters are not supposed to do, but she finds a way to make it happen. And I cannot wait to see how she develops to the college game, because we've been so impressed with her attitude and how she works and the things she does. And she'll make sets where the team will, they'll ooh and ah over what she does. But yeah, you talk about Erin Olsen, and the story behind her transferring in from Bradley is Jenny, our associate head coach, had recruited her when Jenny was the head coach at Bradley. And when Jenny came here, Erin played a year at Bradley and then transferred here. Well, we knew we were getting a good setter because she comes from a high-quality club. We didn't know we were getting the setter that we got. And she just is an absolute field general. And she's polished already, and she's just a sophomore. And she gives us so many options because she's humble enough to set the 6-2 and allow other players to play. But she's tough enough to set the 5-1 if we want to do that and be the only setter on the floor. So we've got so many different ways we can play this. I have no idea how we're going to do it. Sitting here with you right now, less than a week from competition, I have no idea what our lineup is going to be. So she's come in as a leader. She has come in as not somebody who sets, but a setter. She has made everybody around her better. And she's just, the team will tell you, she's just been a joy to have around.
And then in addition to, all this depth that you have, on the back row, Jordan Pingle is back, and she was such a revelation for you last year. But you also have some depth with her. Abby looked pretty good at times here and there during this scrimmage. What are you seeing from the defensive side on the back row as well?
Jordan now 2 years in a row fell just shy. And when I mean just shy, 1 year she fell one dig short, and the other year was just a couple digs short of a school record. And I think she's going to rewrite the record books in the back row. And defensively and serve receive, and now she's taken charge of the back row and spacing out the serve receive and spacing out changing defenses, and she's doing this as going to be a junior now, certainly a leader of a team. She's not our captain, but she's may as well be. And I have not seen her play as steady as I've seen her play the last 3 weeks. She really is comfortable out there. She really owns that backcourt, and it's her show back there, and she's in charge, and she's doing such a great job with it. Now, again, depth is important, and Abby Zimroth has a year under her belt, had a good spring with us, has been practicing really well with us, and it's nice to have that backup person there. If something was to go wrong, you have Abby. Abby can step into that role and do a good job. And then these two young players that, came in, Kat Felice from up in Jacksonville and Mary Kate Painter from Philadelphia. Mary Kate is probably the quickest, most agile, fastest back row player we've had since I've been here. She has got all the physical tools to be unbelievably dynamic. Now she just needs time, experience, and I've always said with the libero position, it takes 18 months before you really feel comfortable. And once she starts getting that time under her belt, look out, because I think she's going to be really good libero or defensive specialist. Kat has been as consistent as any freshman passing and playing defense that we've had. She goes out there every day, and she is just consistent, doesn't make mistakes, does her job, does all the little things like calling the ball and covering for people. And so to have that kind of depth where we can mix and match situationally against opponents is just going to be so much fun to have. So I don't like carrying a roster of 16. I think that's too many. But with us running a 6-2, I think it's okay. And with us having the depth that we have, it's okay. And I think as long as the team keeps their focus on the team, it's about the team and what the team can do, not so much about what they can do, I think we could really do some nice things this year.
As you finish up, you have a new assistant coach also with you. Jenny Maurer came in last year. A former head coach at Bradley came in, and just having that extra experience of somebody who was also a head coach has got to be valuable. And now Brian Doyen comes in as well, and he has even more experience alongside. You guys are kind of like this three-headed monster of head coaches here. It's an amazing brain trust, and we saw that today at the scrimmage with how things actually worked out. What do Brian and Jenny bring to the table for you in terms of just making things a little bit easier for you and so much better as well for the players as well?
Well, when Mike decided to leave and go back closer to home to the West Coast, Mike G, we thought about how do we fill that guy's shoes, because he's been such an important part of our program. And, we talked to people, we had informal conversations, and then I was at the NCAA Final Four, And Brian had given head coaching a shot. Now, this is a guy who was a Pac-12 assistant, and decided to give head coaching a shot and figured out maybe it might not be the right thing for him right now. And kind of pulled me aside after we had done 12, 13 interviews out at the Final Four and said, you know what? My wife and I would really love to move to Orlando and do this. And I told him, I'm like, I can't afford you. You're joking, right? And, to have somebody, I know what it's like to coach in the Pac-12. I know what it's like to be an assistant. It is brutal in that conference. And for him to have run that gamut and done that, the experience and the things that he's seen and done, to have that in the office, when I think I see something one way and he sees it the other, at the very least, it causes me to step back and say, okay, let me take another look at this. And sometimes I go his way. Sometimes I go with my instinct. But to have somebody who's been through those ruthless Pac-12 battles is priceless. He's an unbelievable teacher. Our team loves him. And that, I think, more than anything else, his ability to train and teach and his ability to see the game at a high level has been priceless for us. We talk about Jenny now heading into her second year, getting a lot more comfortable with how we do things here, which is different. It's tough for a head coach she's only been a head coach.
Right.
So it's tough when you've only been a head coach and you've always been in charge. Now someone else is in charge. And, in her second year, she's settling into that so well. And you look at the talent on the floor, it's because of one person. It's because of her. She's the recruiting coordinator. She's gone out and she's got that talent. You look at the 18 class that I can't talk about, the 19 class that I can't talk about, they're done.
Yeah.
And it's because of her.
Wow.
And it's because of the work ethic that she has, the pride for this school that she has, this desire to be a part of something great that she has. And you're right, the discussions that we have in the office are phenomenal because we have three people that can think like head coaches but are not afraid to defer to somebody else's idea. I am not afraid to defer. People told me I was crazy to hire two head coaches. Well, it's going to be so much dissension. Everybody's going to be trying to get their time. Hasn't been that way at all. I have three head coaches that can provide valuable opinions with no ego. And I tell you, it could not have worked out better. Absolutely could not have worked out better.
3 head coaches, 16 really talented players, 10 years in the books, and wow, this is probably about as exciting a team that we've seen in quite some time. Head coach Todd Dagenais of UCF Volleyball, thanks for joining me here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. I'll catch you in a month for your home opener.
It's hard to believe that we're playing this week. We're not going to be home for a month, but we'll look forward to seeing you there. And thanks for being a part of this. As always, you've been around us since the beginning, and you don't know how much I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate your support of our program and getting our message out because, we're one of those sports that could get easily lost in the mix of everything else that's going on here, and you make sure that doesn't happen. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate you, Coach. Thanks for letting me be a small part of it. Thanks, Coach.
All right.
All right. Thanks to Coach Todd. Thanks to Ian McDonald as well, the in charge of communications for volleyball this year. So you can sense how Todd's pretty excited about this team coming in, Eric. And one of the things, I think you alluded to this before, is the fact that, they have a lot of depth this year. And, that could end up being a problem because, I saw during the black and gold scrimmage, there were some players who I thought, who you would think would probably be like, red shirt material. And you were kind of looking for them to kind of be like, okay, yeah, that's why that person should redshirt. But everybody the players on the bottom of who would be on the bottom of the depth chart, they were really making the decision difficult for the coaches, which I guess is a good problem to have. But the newcomers that they have this year, I think Todd mentioned it. The one who I'm really excited to see is Erin Olson, who's a sophomore setter from Cary, Illinois. She transfers over from Bradley. And I thought she put on a show in the black and gold scrimmage. I was really excited to see what she does in the offense for Coach Todd, if he runs a 6-2 or a 5-1. And then the other question is going to be, and you mentioned this too earlier, who picks up for Jayla Hervey. This is what I found out about Jayla Hervey. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Jayla last year racked up 504 kills. That is the highest. That was the 10th highest total in UCF history, and the highest total in UCF history in the rally scoring era. So that's since 2002. That was when they switched over the scoring from you had to win in order to get a point. You had to win on serve. In 2002 they changed that to like whoever wins the point gets a point. So think about that. So matches would go a lot longer back in the day, and think about that kind of production that you're missing. 500 plus kills, nearly 5 points per set. So we're going to see, but I think you're going to see more out of Kia Bright. Players, some of the younger players that came through last year, like Ali Sable, who was just a revelation on the right side, and then in the middle, folks like obviously I mentioned Taylor Wicke, but also Jeannie Westney, and a couple of other players who are going to be UCF is going to be counting on this year. I think there's just a lot of weapons at their disposal this year.
I agree. I think there's a lot of depth, and we know what I found interesting. Your thoughts, and I know you guys alluded to it a little bit. Going on the road a lot early.
Yeah.
Going on the road a lot. Your thoughts on that? And it tells me that I think Todd has a lot of confidence in that this team can handle that.
Well, Todd mentioned this in the interview, right? That they kind of got caught having to do some return trips. And so that's why it worked out. They're starting the season out in Greeley, Colorado. And playing Northern Colorado, Duke, and Colorado State. Very good programs in Duke and Colorado State. Then they come home to Florida, but they're going down to Fort Myers, and they're doing the Sunshine State Challenge, which Todd was able to put together along with the other coaches there, where they got FAU, Florida Gulf Coast, and Miami down at Fort Myers. Then they have to go to Conway, Arkansas, to play at Arkansas State's tournament against A-State, Southern, and Central Arkansas. And then they come home for their only home preseason tournament. Is September? Their home opener is September the 15th. That's a Friday against Virginia. They got Virginia out of the ACC, and then Ole Miss out of the SEC before they actually start conference play on September 22nd against East Carolina. Remember, in conference play, you play everybody twice, home and home. So, and then of course we mentioned how tough it's going to be to play Wichita. That's a tough road trip when you go out there, and we mentioned how good Wichita is traditionally. They're picked preseason number 1 in the American. That's how good they are. So, first year in the league, and there you go, right?
Well, that's the thing, obviously, and we'll get into this. One of the storylines in the American Conference in all sports this year is obviously the addition of Wichita State for a majority of the sports. And obviously men's basketball, when we get to that will be the big headliner about Wichita State, a team that's probably going to be ranked top 10 going into the season in basketball and be the favorites in basketball. But in talking to Coach Dagenais and other people, the biggest other sport other than men's basketball that this will have the biggest impact as far as being in the conference, Wichita State being in the conference, is volleyball. They are a perennial power, top 30, top 35 team. They've dominated the Missouri Valley. They're a perennial NCAA tournament team, and that's going to add, you would think, significant cachet to the American Conference and keep it being now a consistent multiple bid league, and maybe help the league get more enlarged, as you like to think. I know Coach Dagenais has been outspoken about it in the past, about maybe some of the politics and the selection process that they tend to, it's too Power 5 heavy and stuff like that. But I think the American Conference is getting better and better every year. Wichita State will be the heavy favorite, although I'm in the minority, believe it or not. I like Cincinnati, Jeff, as you know. I covered Cincinnati here the last couple of years. They got the best player in the conference, in my opinion, in Jordan Thompson.
Yeah, Jordan Thompson, preseason player of the year, yep.
Yeah, and don't take my word for it. Aaron Campbell, a former UCF volleyball player, an analyst, volleyball. When she did the game with me, she said she's an all-American type. Like she's a type of player that can play for the United States beyond, after college. So I still like Cincinnati personally with that group of Thompson and that recruiting class that they had. I think it's between Wichita and Cincinnati, but I think those are two powerhouses right there. And then we're not even talking about the other teams behind them, I guess, in the preseason poll. Temple, they're very well coached. They're very good. SMU, USF's got material. They've got talent. This is a stacked league. And I know that Todd has mentioned this not only in the interview, but on social media stuff, right? I would be surprised if anybody ran away with a dominant record in the league. Don't you? I feel like there's going to be some losses. I just hope that the league doesn't get hurt because everybody's beating each other up, and that's my only concern come selection, when the selection show comes. I hope that the league gets the credit it deserves, because I think this is a league that probably should be a 3 to 4 bid league this year.
I think so too. Todd mentioned that he thought it should be 4 to 5, and the thing was that he did mention that that it's going to be, you could have as many as 5 teams in sort of that 9 to 11 win range, and you're right. I am a little bit worried about them kind of beating each other up, but that gives you an opportunity because somebody is going to slip up that you think might have the chance to wrap it up, and then all of a sudden you're heading into the final weekend with a chance to win the conference outright. So I'm really excited to see what they'll have in store. It is a stack. This is as stacked as this league has ever been.
So here's the thing: if you're UCF, Jeff, I'll put you on the spot. To get to the NCAA tournament, do they have to finish top 3 to feel comfortable? We could certainly debate how many teams a team should get in the league, but let's be honest. If you're 4th or 5th in the league, you're not going to feel as comfortable as you do if you finish 2nd or 3rd. So that's, to me, the question is, if the ceiling for UCF here, what's going to be the key to get those swings? Beat the Temple. It's going to come down to that probably. Can the Temple matches last year could have easily swept Temple. Could have gone either way. Points down the stretch in that 5th set is going to be pivotal, and you can't have any slip-ups, quote unquote, against the bottom teams who are better. That was the other thing that at times I think you can't have any slip-ups. You got to win the matches you're supposed to. You got to win your home matches, and then kind of maybe split on the road. It's going to be fascinating to me how they handle this, and that's going to be the room for error is not much. I mean, that's it's going to be interesting to me. It's really wide open, right? Like it sounds crazy to say, but I think you might agree. 2 or 3 swings could be the difference between 2nd place and 6th place in this league.
Maybe even fewer. Considering I think Todd mentioned this too, and I happen to agree with him. We got 2 teams basically in the top 50 coming into this year, and 2 more on the outside. Now, or excuse me, 4 teams in the top 50, and 2 more, knocking on the door. I'm with him on that. It's just gonna be a tough run. It's gonna be a slugfest, and my hope is that the Americans conference RPI also is a reflection of that. Last year, the American was 6th out of 31 conferences, 6th best in conference RPI. That's going to, I think
without
that's going to go
Wichita State.
Without Wichita State, yeah, you're looking at. I mean, going up to maybe even 4th. Who knows? And the middle of the conference is going to be strong based on that. 9 to 12 wins, maybe half the conference might be around that. And Todd mentioned that too. I think that it's going to be. God, we're going to see some really exciting volleyball this year at the venue. I really do believe that. And that home schedule, like I said, we don't have too many non-conference games, but in conference, get your tickets now, man, because this is going to be a brutal stretch. And I mean brutal in a good way, because we're going to see some really good teams, some really talented teams. Coming through the venue, And I think it's going to depend on how UCF depends. Really, there are few sports outside of football and basketball that really you can feed off the crowd as much as volleyball. And when that place is packed, it's a madhouse, dude. You got, I'm hoping that we see some really good attendance for our for those volleyball matches. Which, oh, by the way, I will be doing PA for again this fall too. So I'm excited about that, and I'm very thankful to UCF for allowing me to do that as well.
Important to play well on the road in the non-conference too. You got to establish some road wins, get some confidence, get into the conference portion. And as you know, a lot of times committees will look at that. How many wins you have in neutral courts on the road, that matters. So I look, it's going to be interesting. I mean, there's no ways. It'll be interesting to see how this comes out. I agree. Home matches in the conference will be pivotal. Can they finally, they haven't beaten Cincinnati at home the last couple of years, came close last year. Mm-hmm. Same thing. You got Wichita. Can you get some splits there, because those are quality wins as well. So that helps you in the RPI. So I think that's a factor too. You look at last year, for example, they lost at home to Temple, lost at home to Cincinnati, lost at home to SMU. So that didn't really help their cause. Can they flip that and get some of those wins? Because let's be honest, it's going to be hard to win at Wichita State. It's going to be hard to win at Cincinnati. So can you split those and then beat the teams you're supposed to in the league? That's what it's going to come down to, and it's going to be dramatic.
This team, I think, is poised and ready to do that, in terms of the talent that they have offensively. And then, of course, we mentioned, and we talked with Todd, how good, Jordan Pingle is defensively, along with the other players back there. Kia Bright does not get enough credit for being an excellent two-way player. And then we're going to have some, and then getting, Aaron Olson back there as a setter and defensively, I think is going to be a huge boost to the team as well. Not to mention the veterans that we have, like Miranda Watkins as well. So this should be exciting. I do think that UCF is going to finish higher than their fifth place ranking in the preseason. Do they get an at-large bid to the NCAAs? I don't know. I hope so. I hope that the conference at least is strong enough where that UCF can get another 20-win season, maybe encroach on maybe flirt with 25 wins, win some of those non-conference matches as well before their conference season starts, and then it should be a lot of fun to see if they can do that. So. All right, Lopez, so that's our outlook for UCF volleyball here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Just a reminder that you can follow UCF volleyball at UCF_volleyball on Twitter, and follow Todd Dagenais as well at UCF VB That's UCF Todd on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. Hit us up on Twitter at UCF_Banneret. And also hit me up at Jeff_Sharon and Eric at Eric Lopez Elo. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn. Don't forget to leave us a rating as well. All right, so that'll do it for our volleyball preview. Don't forget, you can also listen to our women's soccer preview as well for this week. Remember, we're doing our trifecta of previews here on the podcast instead of the one regular show, so you can pick and choose which ones you want. And we've also got men's soccer as well, with new head coach Scott Calabrese coming up. So that'll do it for that'll do it for us here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Thanks for listening. We will catch you with the rest of our previews this week and head into football season next week.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.